I'm actually, I guess I'm technically what you would consider a little bit of a prepper. I just bought 10 acres over in Tennessee, and I'm curious why we don't see very much of the whole prepper mentality on the left. And if you guys had any thoughts on that.
I'm going to cop to having a little bit of that. I have a feeling there's some of that. I have a theory about, like Gen Xers having a little bit of a prepper mentality because we grew up with like the millennium sort of so prominent. When you
the Y2K thing?
Well, not just Y2K, just the concept of the millennium. There is some like academic writing about what happens, like weird stuff happening around millenniums in terms of the psychology, right? Because it's just like, it's on some level, it's human nature to think like, whoa, we're getting, the millennium, something big could possibly happen there. I mean, I think that's what Y2K was. There was that fear that was just sort of a little bit more rationally based. But, there's a site called The Prepped. Is that what it is? The Prepared, John Stokes, I think it is. Will you just Google that? Was it Stokes? What is it called? The Prepared. Have you ever seen that site?
No, I can't say I have. I mostly avoid like the prepper culture.
Yeah,
because
no,
it's
this is for you.
Like right-wing stuff.
This is for you. It's called The Prepared. To the extent that there's any sort of like ideological bent, it's left leaning without a doubt.
Really?
Yep. And I mean, not, it doesn't get too into it, but it's actually a site that I read with some regularity. It is why I had bought a bunch of toilet paper and paper towels in February and a little bit of food at that time in 2020. But you're right. I think it's not there because I think to a large extent that vision, the idea that we have to be individually responsible for the failure of something that government and society should be providing for at this point. I think that's where there's a little bit of like, jam up. Okay, power is going to go out. Well, why is the power going out? Because we have not made an investment into the grid and we do not have sustainable energy. There's going to be food shortages. Why? Because we have monopolistic practices that have made our supply lines highly dependent on like we've literally put all our eggs into one basket. These are all of the problems for the vast majority. Let's put it this way. The vast majority of problems that we, for which you should prepare for, really should be prepared for by society. And I think there is a feeling, and I don't know that it's wrong, that if we spend too much time preparing as an individual for these things, we take the pressure off society to address them. That's my theory.
I can see that. Like I always wish society would deal with systemic problems, but we never seem to. So it always gives me a lot of anxiety thinking about, what we're going to see in the coming decades, because, you kind of touched on it. History is kind of cyclical. And if you look like what happened in the 20s and the 30s, like it's just got me real nervous about the future. And I just wonder sometimes why there aren't more leftists in the sort of prepper space, because it seems to be overrun by right-wing wackos and crazies.
I would say part of it is a bit cost prohibitive, especially like buying land to do prepper stuff on. Like I would theoretically love to do that, but you got to pay rent.
I've gotten really lucky. I bought real estate here in California when I came over here, and it's increased in value 66% in the last 3 years. So I'm going to be selling this place and then buying. I've already purchased land in Tennessee, so I've gotten really fortunate. I understand that most people don't have that sort of financial power.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that like it's good to, have a go bag, as it were. And I think it's, it's nice to have some self sustenance. But, the bottom line is use some of that anxiety and energy into fighting for more comprehensive change in our society. Because at the end of the day, that's the best preparation. I mean, look, if whatever the scenario I think it's good to be prepared for, like, we could have COVID. So, maybe it's good to have
our grid is underprepared. Yeah.
Maybe it's good to, if you live, in a place where you might lose power, to have some type of generator. I mean, like, even like, in the city I grew up in, it's the second biggest city in New England. And they were out of power a couple of years ago for like 2 or 3 weeks. And so, getting a solar generator, let's say, is probably not a bad idea if you know that there's, so that you can put it outside and then bring it inside to operate certain things. But like full on prep stuff for like a societal collapse, to me, that's a fool's errand, because it may be sort of romantic to contemplate, like, but that's going to suck. And so, rather than like getting the 70, 50-gallon jugs to store your water, spend your effort on like organizing and mutual aid society, mutual aid groups and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually a big like prepper fiction, like kind of novels and stuff. Like, and they always romanticize like the society collapse, and like you're gonna have like 3 chicks for every guy, and it's really, really bizarre fictional writing. And I tried to read some of it. I'm like, yeah, this is not how it's going to go down. If it does go down, and I'm hopeful that it won't. But
so wait, what's happening in this prepper fantasy? There's going to be 3 women for every guy. What? Like, how did that work out?
It's super bizarre. It's always like an EMP or a nuclear or something, and like all the technology's destroyed, and people have to depend on the men who know how to get stuff done. It's really bizarre fantasy writing, because that's what it is. It's a fantasy writing, kind of like wish fulfillment kind of thing.
I think that animates a lot of the stuff on the left, right? I mean, that's what Kyle Rittenhouse, when he goes down with their,
on the left.
No. Did I say on the left?
Yeah.
No, on the right.
Yeah.
On the right. Well, when Kyle Rittenhouse grabs that gun and goes down there, he thinks he's I don't know, whatever.
Rambo.
Character.
He's reclaiming his man.
Yeah, it's Rambo, or I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
It's it could be.
Well, they say it all the time. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, and so they want to be that good guy desperately.
Right. It reminds me of just really quickly, the scene in Mad Men where Pete buys the gun after like his, he feels like cucked by his wife, or he's married and whatever, just to kind of reclaim his, he returns the chip and dip for the gun. That's what that reminded me of. But anyway.
All right. Appreciate the phone call.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Sam. Emma.
Yep.
And that is the phone call-in portion of our program. And now on to the IM wrap things up.
Portion of the program.
Indeed. Up to the millennium, there is some like academic writing about what happens, like weird stuff.